It began on a morning that felt deceptively calm, the kind of morning when Paris seems to breathe poetry. The Seine shimmered like molten glass under the pale sun, and the streets carried the hum of ordinary life. Vendors calling, pigeons fluttering over cobblestones, lovers murmuring in cafes. Yet beneath that effortless beauty lay the echo of something unseen, a question suspended in the city's heart. How can a city so drenched in art and light also harbor such perfect darkness? It was in this city of elegance and secrets that one of the most daring and meticulous diamond heists in history unfolded, executed with such grace and precision that it seemed less a crime and more a performance, one that would haunt the corridors of French law enforcement for decades. The Gardner Diamond was not just another gem. It was a legend crystallized. Discovered in the late 19th century from the mines of South Africa, it had been cut into a brilliant 137-carat masterpiece, an ice-blue diamond whose glow seemed to hold a storm within. It found its home not in a vault or a royal crown, but in the private collection of the Musée de la Lumière, a jewel box of a museum near the Place Vendôme. The diamond had been named after its most famous owner, Eleanor Gardner, an American heiress whose love affair with Parisian art circles made her both muse and mystery. When Eleanor died in 1939, her collection was bequeathed to the French government, and among the paintings and porcelain sat the Gardner Diamond, displayed under a perfect dome of bulletproof glass. Parisians came to see it the way others came to see Notre Dame, a testament to what human hands could shape and what human greed might one day covet. Security around the diamond was considered impenetrable. The museum had state-of-the-art motion sensors, 24-hour guards, and thick steel shutters that closed over every window after dusk. But as history has shown time and again, perfection invites challenge. Somewhere in the crowd of daily visitors, someone looked at that diamond not with admiration, but with intention. His name was Lucien Moreau, though among the circles of Europe's underworld he was known only as Renard, the Fox. Born in Lyon to a family of modest jewelers, Lucien learned early how to read the glint of a stone and the weakness of a lock. He was not violent, nor particularly ambitious. What drove him was beauty and the art of impossible thefts. By the time he reached his 30s, Lucien had already become a ghost in police records, suspected of robberies across Geneva, Amsterdam, and Antwerp, each one executed without blood, without trace, as if the jewels themselves had decided to vanish. Paris, however, was different. It was not a city one simply stole from. It was a stage. Lucien arrived in Paris in 1998 under the name Adrien Lemaitre, a restorer of antique clocks. His workshop sat in the Rue Saint-Honoré, a short walk from the museum. From there, he observed, sketched, and planned. Every morning, he visited the Musée de la Lumière as a patron, always polite, always curious, sometimes pausing longer than necessary before the Gardner Diamond. To the guards, he was just another admirer of beauty. But beneath that quiet demeanor lived a mind at work. Lucien noted every detail, the shift change of guards, the reflection angles in the glass, the faint vibration of footsteps near the floor sensors. What fascinated him most was not the diamond itself, but the system that surrounded it, the choreography of human vigilance. He had learned that perfection was not a wall, but a pattern, and patterns could be broken. Lucien could not do it alone, nor did he intend to. In the underbelly of Paris, in the neon hum of Saint Denis cafes and the smoky dens near Pigalle, he began to assemble his circle. The first was Elena Dobrev, a Bulgarian art forger with hands that could mimic a master's brushstroke or a museum invoice. She had once replaced a Monet with her own replica for a private collector who never noticed the switch. The second was Matteo Rossi, an Italian engineer whose fascination with security systems bordered on obsession. He had designed safes for Milan's elite before his gambling debts dragged him into darker trades. And the last was Samir Haddad, a Moroccan driver and mechanic who could make a car glide through Parisian streets without attracting a single curious glance. They met in the cellar of Lucien's workshop. It smelled of oil, old wood, and cigarettes. Lucien spread blueprints across the table, the museum layout, the security schematics, the guard schedules obtained through discreet bribery. He spoke with calm precision, his eyes gleaming in the dim light. "This is not theft," he told them. "This is art." The difference between a thief and an artist is that the artist leaves nothing ugly behind. For months they studied, rehearsed, and tested. Elena produced fake credentials and crafted a flawless glass replica of the Gardner Diamond, cut from lead crystal and laced with a hint of blue dye. Matteo built miniature models of the museum's alarm grid, experimenting with electromagnetic interference and pulse signal timing. Samir memorized the city's traffic patterns down to the minute. They agreed that the operation would take place on a Thursday night in early spring, when the museum hosted a private gala. The timing would allow them to blend among guests during setup and then move unseen once the event concluded. Paris would sleep under a drizzle of rain, and by the time dawn rose over the Seine, the Gardner Diamond would be gone. March 18, 1999, arrived like a whisper. The air smelled faintly of wet stone, and a low fog clung to the boulevards. Inside the Musée de la Lumière, chandeliers glittered over guests dressed in black tuxedos and silk gowns. Waiters drifted with champagne trays, and music from a string quartet filled the air with elegance. Lucien, wearing a dark suit and carrying a restorer's ID badge, moved among the crowd like an unnoticed current. Elena mingled with donors, laughing lightly, her accent softened to pass for Italian nobility. Matteo sat in a van parked a block away, eyes flicking between monitors, his headset crackling with Lucien's calm instructions. Samir leaned against the steering wheel of a delivery truck, ready to vanish into the night when the time came. At midnight, as the last guests departed and the lights dimmed, Lucien stepped into a service corridor leading toward the central exhibit. He moved as though time itself had slowed, his footsteps soundless on marble. In the surveillance room, Matteo triggered a brief electromagnetic pulse that froze the cameras for 90 seconds. In that silence, Lucien approached the glass dome of the Gardner Diamond. The gem shimmered like frozen fire under the security lights. Lucien's reflection stared back at him, composed, detached, almost reverent. With measured precision, he unscrewed the dome's bolts using a custom tool designed to absorb vibration. The motion sensors beneath the pedestal had been recalibrated by Matteo earlier that day during a maintenance inspection. Their sensitivity reduced just enough to ignore the faint tremor of Lucien's hands. He lifted the diamond, replaced it with the replica Elena had crafted, and sealed the dome again. The entire act took 83 seconds. When the cameras resumed, nothing appeared out of place. The Gardner Diamond was still there, or so it seemed. Outside, Samir started the engine. The city was asleep, its rain-slicked streets gleaming under street lamps. In the back of the van lay a small velvet box, its contents catching the light only once before being swallowed by darkness. The theft was not discovered until the following afternoon. A curator, adjusting the lighting for a visiting school group, noticed a peculiar dullness in the diamond's reflection. He tapped the glass and frowned. Under closer inspection, the gem's glow seemed slightly muted, its refraction too heavy. The museum director was summoned. Within an hour, the building was sealed, alarms were tested, and confusion erupted like wildfire. When the truth emerged, it sent a shudder through France's cultural world. The Gardner Diamond, valued at 70 million euros, had vanished without a trace. The press called it the heist of the century. The police called it impossible. The director, trembling in disbelief, told reporters, "It cannot be gone. The system would have told us." But the system had not. Detective Inspector Julien Marchand of the Brigade de Repression du Banditisme took charge of the case. He was known for his patience, his sharp eye for human error, and his distrust of glamour. He walked through the museum floor, studying the glass, the screws, the angles of reflection. Nothing was broken, nothing forced. The only evidence was perfection itself, a kind of silence too complete to be natural. Lucien and his team, meanwhile, scattered like leaves in the wind. Elena left for Prague under a new name, Matteo disappeared into Italy's countryside, and Samir drove east toward Marseille. Lucien remained in Paris, invisible as ever, living quietly above his workshop, the diamond hidden behind a false wall in a clock casing. To the world, he was still Adrien Lemaitre, a craftsman polishing time. The investigation consumed the city. Interpol joined, experts were flown in, and insurance firms placed rewards that drew every kind of opportunist. The Gardner Diamond became a ghost that everyone claimed to glimpse but no one could catch. Detective Marchand began tracing the smallest inconsistencies: the forged maintenance records, the brief camera malfunction, the unidentified delivery van parked near Rue Saint-Honoré. Slowly, the net tightened. Lucien sensed it. He had expected pursuit, even admired it. To him, the beauty of the theft was not in escape but in the dance that followed, the intellectual duel between hunter and hunted. He met Marchand once by chance or fate, in a cafe near the Palais Royal. The detective, unaware of whom he sat beside, was reading the newspaper headline, "1 year without a trace of the Gardner Diamond." Lucien, sipping espresso, glanced at the same page and said quietly, "Perhaps some treasures do not wish to be found." Marchand looked up, studying him, sensing something familiar in the calm tone. But by the time he blinked, the man was gone. Years passed. Rumors emerged that the diamond had surfaced in Dubai, then vanished again in Hong Kong. Each lead dissolved into mist. Yet within the circles of jewel thieves, whispers persisted. Renard still keeps the Gardner close, not for wealth but for beauty. If you're still watching, please subscribe so that more people can discover these powerful true stories. In 2008, nearly a decade after the heist, an old clock arrived at an antique auction in Montmartre. It was exquisite, bronze filigree, intricate gears, marked with the initials AL. When the auctioneer wound it, the mechanism clicked strangely, and the back panel shifted. Inside was a velvet pouch containing the Gardner Diamond, wrapped in a page of Le Figaro dated the morning after the theft. The revelation stunned France. The diamond was returned to the Musée de la Lumière, its luster untouched. No fingerprints, no DNA, no trail. Only the initials on the clock, AL, remained as a whisper. Detective Marchand, now older and slower, stood before the restored exhibit and smiled faintly. He understood then that the heist had never been about money. Lucien Moreau, Adrien Lemaitre, had loved the diamond the way an artist loves his canvas. The theft was his final brushstroke, the masterpiece of invisibility. Returning it years later was the signature. Marchand ordered the clock kept in evidence, though privately he believed it should have been displayed beside the diamond as part of its legend. The public saw justice. Marchand saw poetry. Paris moves on as it always does, swallowing stories into its endless heart. Tourists now visit the Gardner Diamond's glass case and take selfies, unaware of the ghost who once held it. Guides tell the tale of the polite thief who stole the gem only to give it back. Some say Lucien died years ago in Morocco. Others claim he lives quietly in Lisbon under another name, still repairing clocks, still listening to the ticking of time as though it were music. The Gardner Diamond gleams once more under museum lights, perfect and untouchable. Yet those who stand long enough before it sometimes feel an odd stillness, as if the glass remembers the warmth of human hands. In that reflection, perhaps the city itself recognizes that beauty and theft, creation and destruction, are forever intertwined. Detective Marchand retired soon after the diamond's return. When asked if he ever regretted not catching Renard, he replied, "He gave Paris a story it will never forget. That is something no prison could replace." The mystery remains unsolved, though the evidence sits in plain sight. A flawless stone, a silent clock, and the legend of a man who vanished into his own myth. Some nights, when the lights of Paris flicker over the Seine and the air hums with rain, one might imagine a figure passing by the museum, pausing for just a moment to glance at the window where his masterpiece rests. Then he moves on, unhurried, into the rhythm of a city that never stops watching its own reflections. What do you think truly happened? Share your thoughts in the comments.